Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Dating Made Simple. I'm your host, Tom Robinson, and sitting right across from me, an icon in the podcasting world, Bob Walls.
Tom, you humble me. It's so great to be here with you today.
Welcome.
What a beautiful day.
Welcome. And sitting right next to you
is Macy,
our co-host, Macy.
The actual star of this show.
Guys, you keep saying that I'm the star of the show, but, it's really you guys.
No, that's what we're not. It's not the word on the street. Everyone says. Oh,
everyone tunes in to listen to Macy.
I'm not sure what street you're walking on, but
well, easy street.
Well, Bob and Macy, I have to tell you, I have a great guest today.
Yes, that's what I understand.
Super excited about this.
Well, I'm sitting up straight for her.
Yeah, you better, because her name's Blanca Cobb. She is a body language expert.
Yes.
And on her website, it says her mission is to change the way we connect with people to get results. She's everywhere, okay?
She is everywhere.
She's everywhere. She has been featured in magazines like Cosmo and Women's Health and the Oprah magazine.
The Oprah magazine, oh my word.
Big time. And then she's been on CBS, NBC, ABC. Get this, she was interviewed by Al Roker and, you ready? Megyn Kelly.
Oh, now Megyn Kelly, that's a big deal.
Your favorite.
So,
yeah.
Blanca, welcome.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here.
We're so excited to have you. Okay, tell us first of all, how did you get into becoming a body language expert?
It wasn't planned. There was no.
You didn't lean into it?
No, I didn't. And it really was by chance. So to take you back a million years ago when I was a little girl, I had to learn, or I learned body language. I didn't have to, but I ended up picking it up because it was a survival mechanism for me, just because I was an abused little girl. And one way that I could potentially predict what was going to happen was really paying attention to body language and changes in mannerisms and listening to tone of voice, even down to the steps that were coming down the hallway. And it gave me a predictive ability and listening to changes. And it's survival. It's no different than anybody else. It's just, I was in that high state of alert for so long in my life. And then other not so nice things happened to me in my childhood and adolescence. And I just kind of honed it. And then when I went to graduate school, I got a master's degree in psychology. And then after that, I started studying with some very well-respected nonverbal communication experts and detecting deception experts in the field.
Wow, that's an interesting journey. How long have you been doing this?
Oh, probably 12, 13 years.
Oh, wow.
Very exciting.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So did you have private clients that you work with, or do you do this in an academic? Or do you have a practice?
No, I don't have a practice. I have companies who hire me.
Ah.
I work with individuals, and I also have executives. I work with executives. I have not in an academic setting in terms of teaching a class, but I have gone to universities and spoken to different classes. That makes sense. So I haven't actually taught a class, but I've been a guest in some class.
Interesting.
That's awesome.
So in the corporate setting, what is the advantage of body language? Is that in sales, or is that in being able to read people as far as business, or what advantage do people hire you to bring you into companies for?
It's all of the above. When it is sales teams, how do you read a potential client? What do you do with if you have two clients, right, or two people that you're talking to, but then one person is looking away and then the other party is interested? How do you get the elusive person involved? And then also HR, it's really important. Like, how do you figure out when people are making complaints or something is happening that isn't quite right? How do you know who's telling the truth or who isn't? Hiring practices. The research shows that a lot of people embellish their resume, but when you're in the interview, what are you looking for in a potential employee?
And their body language will tell you.
But we're applying this to kind of a different area of this, in the area of dating. And so I guess it's probably very similar. There's probably characteristics that cross over from the business world and sales into dating. Have you found that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you think about it. When you go on a date, just like when you meet a client for the first time, you're not going to propose. At least you shouldn't.
You shouldn't.
There's a courtship. There's a time to get to know the other person, and they learn about you. This is where you build trust, and this is where you build rapport. A lot of it does start with body language.
When you talk a lot about body language as confidence, and that's one of the things I have noticed in terms of the dating world, what we deal with here. And we're here on a university campus, and what we observe is there's this kind of approaching a young woman or a young man, there's just like this lack of confidence and everybody just kind of backs away from it. And you spend a lot of time talking about that and talking about how you carry yourself makes all the difference in the connection that you're going to make.
Absolutely. But I'm going to take it one step backwards.
Okay.
The very step is what you tell yourself before you even leave your
Oh, yeah.
on that date. Why? Because your emotions play into your body language. If you're saying great positive things about yourself, guess what? You're feeling pretty good, which means you're going to emote what? Positive and happy body language. If you tell yourself this date is going to suck, I didn't get my hair done, or I wish I got my nails done, or my car's beat up, or whatever story you're telling yourself, what's happening? You're starting to feel bad. Your body language tends to implode upon itself. And then this is where the rounded shoulders come in. This is where the deflection in the voice is where it heads down. You're not open. You're not happy. You don't have this welcoming body language when you meet somebody.
Ooh, I like this a lot because I've seen that in my own life. I'm like, all of a sudden I start talking to somebody. I'm like, why am I like grumpy? I'm not even grumpy, but it's because I feel like of the thoughts that I've had before, and then the body language goes into it, and then it's kind of, I think it's a cycle. You have the emotions, and then your body starts to act like it, and then you get more emotional, and then you're like more slumped and all these things. So I'm like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. I've seen that so much in my own life, even with these dating, going on dates and all these things.
Now, I would guess that a lot of people don't notice when they're emoting that with their shoulders or so what do you advise people to do? Do you advise them to pay attention to their body language, or is it just something you naturally do or you don't do?
Oh, no, you definitely have to pay attention to your body language. And you're right. People don't really know because we don't walk around with a mirror in front of us and we're looking at ourselves all the time. However, do you know what your mirror is? The person you're talking to.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Oh,
your body language is going to have an impact on them. Right?
Interesting.
And then it can change their body language. Because if they're like, I was excited to meet this person, and now they don't seem very interested, they're looking down or looking away, their voice is changing, they're like, okay, well, I guess this date isn't going as
This is not going. When it translates interest, right? I have bad body language. It shows that I'm really not that interested in you. So do you recommend
because sometimes it's a misperception.
It is.
Describe for us here so we can get a visual picture of this. Is what does someone look like who has a negative body image and someone who has a positive? What are the visual differences that you could describe?
Well, first I have to give this a caveat because we're all different. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples, but that doesn't mean every single person who's feeling negatively is only going to show the examples that I give, right? And vice versa. It's not only going to be the positive ones that I'm but for some of the negative ones, people tend to be withdrawn. They'll pull back, they'll pull away. Like physically, they'll put some distance in between you and them. They might look down, look away, pick up their phone, pay too much attention to a menu, right? They may tend to look to the side. They might start fidgeting, fingers fidget, toes start tapping. They start wiggling in their seat. There's a lot of behaviors that would let you know that they're either distracted, uninterested, or they're preoccupied. They might be thinking about something else. Or they could physically just shut down. They might cross their arms. They might put something in between you and them. For example, if they have a drink, they might have a drink between you and them, creating some physical distance, but also psychological distance.
no, I totally do that sometimes. why do I feel safe when I walk around with a water bottle? Like, what? That makes sense.
Well, and there's a difference. I heard you talk about the difference between holding the drink or the bottle in front of you as opposed to holding it off to the side.
Exactly. When you hold it to the side and the person's in front of you, there's nothing blocking. There isn't connection between the two of you because you're having it to the side.
And so you're inviting them in.
Right. They can still be right in front of you, but you're holding it to the side and then you take a sip, and then you put it back down. But if you were to switch it and it's actually in between you and the other person, if they wanted to get closer, they can't. Why? Because they're going to hit that bottle. Okay.
All right. You're putting up a stop sign right there in front of them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's so many signs. I feel like I'm like, oh no, I need to like pay attention to all these like little things that I'm doing now or that I like notice. And other people that sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, what about the folding your arms one? Because I feel like that's a pretty comfortable position, but is that automatically telling them
that you're bored?
Like, body language is about perception. So what someone perceives of you becomes a reality of you, regardless if it's true or not. And that's a hard pill for a lot of us to swallow. That's why when you're getting to meet somebody and know somebody and learn about somebody, it's important to make sure you're really paying attention to your body language and that it's comfortable and that it's positive. Later on, when you have an established friendship or relationship and those idiosyncrasies come out, then people are going to say, oh, crossed arms mean nothing because that's just comfortable. But initially, when you're meeting somebody, they could be like, oh, they're being defensive, or they didn't like what I said, or maybe they don't like me, or they don't like the food, or they don't like whatever. Or maybe they want this date to be over. That's why it's really important to pay attention to body language. So if I can, because you asked another question earlier, positive, like how do you show up positive? You show up positive with a big smile. Smiling changes everything and people don't realize it. And I'm talking about a genuine smile where you can see it in the corners of your eyes and those cheek muscles pull up, right? It just, when you smile at somebody, the tendency is for them to smile back. And it makes you feel good when somebody smiles because it's recognition, it's acknowledgement, it's an indication of, hey, I like talking to you. I want to be around you. It's all positive. But then you also want to have open body language. You want your shoulders back. You want your head up. You want to move in just a little bit when they say something interesting or funny. But then also pay attention to their body language and they're comfortable if you were to get closer just a little bit, right? You want to make sure that there's nothing obstructing you and the other person. You are paying attention to them, not only visually with your eyes, but also with your body language. So you want to face them. There's a difference if you're talking to somebody and you turn your shoulders in a different direction, but your face is pointing towards it. That's a mismatch. That's like, I'm kind of interested, kind of not interested. There's a difference if your head and your body's aligned facing that person.
What does the mismatch tell the person that's looking at you?
They're going to believe the negative over the positive.
Oh,
So what they're going to believe, going back to the example, well, my shoulders are turned in the opposite direction, then they're going to think, okay, Blanca's got somewhere else she wants to go.
she's got to go.
She's going to bolt. She's going to run out of here any second.
That's exactly right.
Or there's someone else.
By looking at me, but she really wants to go.
Yeah, we've all had those experiences when we're talking to someone and they seem like they're looking through us or they're out looking for someone else in the room.
Yeah, that's
And
the worst.
it is the worst, and it makes you feel really uncomfortable talking to the person. So I can see that how the shoulders would dictate that.
I know you guys can't see Blanca on the screen. I could see her when she said, a genuine smile changes everything, and she smiled. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
That makes me happy. Smile totally make me happy.
Yeah, that's so true because it does make the other person happy. And then they are reciprocating your pleasantness, your happiness.
No,
Let
totally.
me give you an example. Think about a time that you were upset or angry about something, and it was either a friend or your parent or significant other, and they make these faces to try to get you to smile, but they're actually smiling, right? The corners of their eyes, the corners of their lips perk up, and they're looking at you, and they're making these silly faces, and they're smiling to get you to smile. What happens? You end up smiling, even though you still might feel a little angst inside. That's the power of a smile.
Interesting. Now, what do you recommend as far as distance? Because as you were saying, sometimes that when you meet somebody for the first time, they don't like people to invade their personal space. How far away, how close do you get to someone when you engage them in conversation?
I think about 3 feet with somebody you don't know is a great distance because intimate space from 0 inches to 1.5 feet to 18 inches is an intimate space. And I'm not talking closed doors intimate. I'm talking about like you would get that close to your mother or your father or your brother or your best friend that you know really well. But then from 1.5 to 4 feet is that social distance. But if you're on a date, knocking it to 3 feet is fine because it's close enough, but not too close, which means you can still lean in as you're talking, right? And then pull back a little bit to give some space. And then you pay attention to somebody's body language. The more comfortable somebody becomes with you, the more likely they're going to take up some space and they're going to inch in a little closer to you. We
Mm.
tend to move things towards we like, and we move away from things we don't like.
Interesting.
What about if you're like sitting at dinner and I know like when you lean in, you're supposed to, show you're interested. You lean in at the table and you get a little closer. And then you lean away. Sometimes I'm like sitting in my chair and I lean back and it's just, am I showing them I'm not interested, even though it's like I've been sitting so lean forward for so long that this is.
Well, but are you doing it because you're not interested?
Or are you just playing that cat and mouse game?
Am I? I don't.
Am I? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm like rethinking all of my life choices right now of how I've been sitting.
This is what I say. We're not robots, which means we cannot stay in one position for so long without moving. It's uncomfortable. It's unnatural. We're human, which means our head's going to itch and we're going to scratch it. We're going to move away. We're going to dust something off our arm. We're going to get distracted by a sound or somebody walking by. We're going to look and we're going to come back to the person. So it's unrealistic for anyone to think that someone has to have like a stare down because then that gets creepy, right? So we
That's fair.
can't do that. So what I say is, going back to your example, Macy, is just you can't stay leaning forward the whole time because someone will be like, oh my gosh, this is like too much. Like, I wish they'd back off. But when you're thinking, think about the context. When someone asks you a question and you have to give it some thought, sometimes it's big. You're going to pull back. You're going to think. Your hand might go up to your chin for this chin grab as you're thinking. You might get the furrowing in your eyebrow, not because of any tension or dislike, just because, wow, that's a good question. I haven't thought about that. I need to think about this for a second. So body language needs to be read in context. And when you understand context, it gives you more confidence in what you're interpreting in somebody else's body language.
Mm. And I've noticed with a lot of people that they don't know what to do with their hands. So sometimes people's hands show that they're nervous. So when they're talking either with their hands or their hands are at their side, or sometimes people will steeple their fingers when they're talking to you.
Finger pyramid. I learned that from her.
Finger pyramid.
I learned that from
well,
her.
that's steepling your fingers, same thing. So are hands a giveaway?
Our hands, absolutely. I call them like an emotional barometer of how somebody's feeling, because we can carry a lot of tension and show a lot of tensions in our hands, our fingers. And one way is you can ball up your hand. You can make them super straight, your fingers super straight, where they look curved backwards. What you want to see is you want to see a natural curvature in the fingers, not super straight and not balled up in the fist, but you just want to see this natural curvature because that's like at ease. That's a relaxation. So I will tell my clients, hey, put your hands on the table. Make sure that you're showing that natural curvature of your fingers. Some people are like, well, I tap my fingers. Okay, that's okay. Maybe you put your hands underneath the table. Just hold your hands still for a few seconds. And then after you're calm, you take a deep breath and you put your hands back out up on the table. And this is one thing I tell people, like, call the elephant in the corner of the room. And what I mean is to say, hey, I'm really enjoying talking to you right now, but I'm just feeling a little nervous. And that's okay.
So just come right out with it.
Human factor.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, why not?
Why not?
I don't pretend how you're not feeling when someone can actually see how you're feeling.
Oh, interesting.
What about the arms? The hands I can see, but a lot of times we don't know what to, especially if we're standing, and we don't really know what to do with our arms. Either we keep them down at our side or we don't know what to do. What's a comfortable position or what shows some confidence?
Putting your hands by your side. But again, you'd want them to be relaxed, not super straight and stiff where your elbows are locked. That sends an entirely different message than if your elbow is not locked and it's relaxed and your arms are laying gently by your side. Your hands might actually be like on the outside of your thigh. Sometimes with your arms relaxed, you can even take your hands and put them behind your back. If you think about, who might do this? Oh, like groomsmen or police officers, they might have their hands behind their back. That can still be very confident because you're showing the front part of your body, like your neck dimple here and your belly button, that's not being covered. So these are very, very vulnerable parts of our body that when we're nervous, we tend to hide. Like, for example, your neck. Some people might take their hand and cover their neck. They might play with the charm on their necklace or adjust their chain that's laying around their neck. those are signs of some nervousness. But if you leave these parts of your body open, then that shows a level of relaxation and confidence.
We recently just had the Super Bowl, and Tom has a question he wants to ask you about that.
You've been interviewed a lot over this since the Super Bowl, and that is you looked at the body language between the Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. Can you give us a little insight on their relationship?
Number one question I get, is it real? And the answer is yes. The feelings that they have for each other, those feelings are real. Watching their body language, when you see, like after the Super Bowl win, for example, the way that they're hugging, they're embracing each other, right? The way they're as close as they possibly can be during the hug. And of course, it's difficult because he has all his football equipment on, right?
And he's sweaty.
Underneath, right? And sweaty. All right. But, when you're in love, it's like, who cares about the sweat? It's really, it's hard to get around those shoulder pads, for example. But even when they were standing side by side, their bodies were like hinged at the side where air couldn't even get in between their bodies. That's how you know that they're really into each other. And the gentleness of the kiss, they both have their eyes closed. Taylor's bringing her hands and she's putting them up on either side of his face as she brings him in for a kiss. It's just sweet. It's gentle. And if you take it one step further from that, I've been analyzing them for different media outlets since the beginning of their relationship. Even when they're walking, he's such a gentleman and he's very chivalrous. Like he makes sure that when there's a big crowd, he's first, and you can tell he puts his hand like behind him, even when they're holding hands. And it's almost like football all over again, because if anyone's going to get in the way, he's there to block them, to make sure they get out of the way, because he wants to make sure that nothing happens to Taylor. That's the impression.
That's tender.
When he's walking with her. And sure, there are different types of scenes and places that they've gone and different types of walks, if you will. But just that one really stood out to me just because he is chivalrous. He's a gentleman, and I think he really wants to protect her when they're out and about in public.
I'm a big Taylor Swift fan, and I'm sure that a lot of listeners out there are. And so this will make everybody very happy to hear that it's real. I'm going to go home and tell my family that the relationship is real, and
Don't
they're
worry
going to
about
be
it.
so excited.
Well, let's talk about body language. Body language is telling me how they're feeling in the moment. Predictive power for me to tell you that they're going to be together in a year from now.
Yeah.
Now, 15 years from now. I can tell you what's happening in the moment because it is just a snapshot in time. And then I look for patterns over time also, which can give some confidence. Are there changes when they're out in public and they're being photographed, or is it pretty consistent?
I really like what you say about hinged at the hips. I think that really does tell a lot.
Like from the whole side of their body.
That if you're really close, boy, that you do really get connected right at the hips.
Oh, absolutely.
I feel like a lot of times I've seen girls try to go out and they're like, well, I want guys to ask me out or try to get my number or something like that. And they're not exactly sure how to portray that confidence, but also not overly confident where they're portraying like
Unapproachable.
Yeah. So what would you say are like tips and tricks for that?
Okay. When you're with your friend, you don't want to be in the middle of all of your friends where it looks like there's a huddle around you. And the reason is because it makes it difficult to get to you. I might really be interested, but then they have like, excuse me, they have to find a way
Swim
to
through.
your friends to get. So you have to make sure that still have fun with your friends, but make sure that you're also sometimes on the outskirts of your friend group, particularly if you notice that you find someone attractive or you see someone is looking at you, because you want to make it easy. Don't make it difficult for someone to say hello. And then sometimes you can say hello to the person. You can smile.
True.
Oh, I'll give you this one little tip. Or eyebrows. It's eyebrow flash. So when we see somebody that we like, it's really more recognition. Think about somebody that you know and you've seen, you're like surprised to see them or happy to see them. Those eyebrows will go up really quickly.
Yeah.
Up and down really fast. And that's called an eyebrow flash. And that is like this universal recognition of like, hey, it's good to see you. I'm happy to see you. Ooh, you caught my attention. Like a hello with the eyebrows.
Okay.
Up and down really quick.
So what about tips and tricks for the boys for having the confidence to approach a girl that maybe is not as confident?
The one thing that I would say for the guys is when you're walking, make sure you're walking confident, making sure you're taking some great stride, right? And your shoulders are back and your arms are relaxed or you're swinging them by your side. What happens a lot of times is people will walk and their head's down and their arms are like glued to their side.
Hmm.
No, people are all
No, she said. No.
Yeah, no, people are always watching and they're making decisions about you. Remember what I said earlier on the show, someone's perception of you becomes their reality of you, whether it's true or not. So you don't want someone to see you with your head down and then all of a sudden you just pop right up talking. That's like odd. Just come from it. This on-off switch is turned on automatically. It can be off-putting. Instead, when you walk, just walk casually, take a wider stride, and make sure that you're looking at the person you want to talk to. Because that's like, right?
Well, that's their first impression too, where they see you walking up.
Yes. And how you're walking, right? You can't be walking as you're checking somebody else out, right? That's not cool. So you really have to be deliberate in your walk is what I'm trying to say when you want to get somebody's attention. And then when you say hello, you want to make sure you respect that distance, not to get too close.
Keep the 3 to 4.
Yeah, keep that 3-foot distance, right? And then you can lean in and you can say, hey, how are you? Good to see you. My name is, or whatever your opening line is, which I think should just be pretty simple.
Are celebrities hiring you because they think they have bad body language, or are you just like perfecting the body language?
Good question. A lot of times it is for interviews, actually. It is because you're acting very different than being in an interview and answering questions. You're not acting. You're not pretending to be a person. You're not submerged in a particular role or tone of voice or whatever it is. It's you being you, comfortable and confident enough to answer questions that you may or may not know it's going to be asked ahead of time. Whether it's easy, if it's about a film, it's about a project, it's about a TV show or a charity, right? A lot of celebrities have philanthropies. It's different when people start asking about your love life or your past relationship.
Yeah.
Something that's a little touchy. Look, some celebrities are people just like everybody else. Sometimes they get into different types of situations, like an argument that's caught on film or something, right? And it's talking about those situations with confidence and then doing it in a way that is still engaging. But then also sometimes the interviewer asks questions that may not be comfortable for a celebrity.
A couple of other things that you've talked about that I want to get to, because I think that the people listening to our podcast maybe struggle with this. And one of those is charm and charisma. And so talk about being charming and how that affects the body language that you have and how someone's perceiving you.
When you're charming, you're making somebody feel good, essentially, right? And when there's a lot of good feelings happening, it changes your own body language because you're more comfortable, you're more relaxed, you're more open, you're more positive, and people can see that in the body language. That's where the charming and the charisma comes in. There's a natural synchronization between the two. Because you think about it. Think about when somebody isn't being very nice or they're mean or they're yelling. Their body language corresponds with all that negativity.
Yeah, no, totally. I think that I've definitely met some people in my life where I'm like, I don't know why I like them so much. But I think it comes down to like, they're just charming. Like they make you feel good. They have good body language and that is charming.
Well, and charismatic is confident. Charismatic is holding your shoulders back. It's being confident when you talk to someone. And all of those things make you a stronger person.
Absolutely.
A more dateable person, right?
More dateable. Now we're all about dating over here.
Right. Now, we've talked about this with some other guests on the show, and that is the area of touch is sometimes a barrier. So there's sometimes that it's very charming when you meet someone and they greet you and they touch your shoulder or appropriately touch your arm. And do you find that body language is a good signal, or because there's There's some people who don't like that. They don't like to be touched. Do you find that that's a good thing to do or a bad thing to do?
I think you should ask before you hug anybody that you don't know. You can say something like, oh, it is so great to meet you. I've had such wonderful conversations on video chats. I'm happy to be here. I'm such a hugger. Is it okay? And see what they say. And if they say no, please don't take it personally. They just don't know you yet, or they show
Right.
affection in a different way. So that isn't an automatic 0. And then when it comes to touching somebody on their hand or on their arm or on their shoulder, you want to make sure that it's a light, fast touch with a quick movement back, and then watch them. If they smile, they move closer, or they give you positive signs that it's okay. If they scowl, they turn away, they brush off their hand after you touched it, whatever, then you know that, whoa, I shouldn't have done that. And then you can say, or if you're not sure, and say, oh, I just realized I touched your hand. I'm sorry, I hope I didn't offend you. And then see what they say. But it has to come from a genuine place from you.
Okay, let's go in that same vein. Let's talk about this, because I think one of the most awkward times on a date is walking up to the door. And you've had a nice time on the date. Now you're walking up to the door. And as a guy, that really is an awkward time. And it's almost like you start fidgeting and you get really nervous. So what are some tips about that? How do you deal with that situation?
I'm going to go back to what I'm going to sound like a broken record here. You ask. I'm going to give you an example. I've had such a great time with you. I feel this connection with you. I'd love to kiss you goodnight. How do you feel about it? That is so much better than trying to read somebody's body language and misinterpret.
You
And
make
then
that
when they
sound,
pull away, it's
well,
really
you
bad.
make that sound so simple. You mean it's that easy? You just ask, hey, you just come right out with it?
Start with the cheek.
Oh,
Is that okay? Some people be like, oh, of course, or no, I'm not quite there yet, or I appreciate you asking. But the one thing that the person is going to get is what? You respect them. You respect them enough to ask. And that is going to leave one fantastic impression about you.
That
Don't
is
make
so true.
not making any assumptions at all.
okay. So Macy, you're on a date with someone and they're dropping you off at the door and they say, I had a really fun time. Can I kiss you on the cheek? Would you like that? Would you not like that? How would you respond to that?
Okay, so before hearing Blanca's answer to that, I would have been like, oh, what you ask? You're asking. You're asking.
Yeah.
Okay. I initially would be a little turned off, but afterwards, thinking about it, I'd be like, actually, that was like really nice of them to ask.
Yeah. Very,
And
very courteous.
very courteous, yes.
Yeah.
And hearing it again from Blanca, I'm like, yeah, there's really no harm in asking. Like, all you're going to get is, oh, they respect me. So I think that it's honestly fine.
So courteous, charming, respect, and confident. I mean, if you're confident enough to ask someone that, I mean, that says a lot, doesn't it, about your confidence level to be able to say that?
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of positive things there that come out of this.
Somebody who doesn't ask makes the assumption, and then you could be like, wait, what did I give you that made you think that was okay? Like, who do you think you are?
I've heard a lot of those stories.
Yeah, that who do you think you are is not a good response.
That's not confident.
That's not what
charming.
you need to hear at the end of a date.
Just who do you think you are, young man?
I've had so many roommates be like, and then he kissed me. And we were like, it was our first date. We barely knew each other. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
All right, Blanca, before we let you go, I read 2 quotes from you, and I absolutely just love these. So I want to just read them and have you respond really quick on these. One, you said, if you want to manage impressions, manage your body language. And I think that's everything that you just said today.
Absolutely. It goes back to what I said. A perception of you becomes a reality of you, whether it's true or not. And having that knowledge, then you can manage someone's impression of you by making sure that you're showing the most positive and open and approachable, respectful body language that you can.
I love that.
Mm.
Okay, you guys, we're going to end on this one. And she says, be interested to be interesting.
Okay. So what do you mean by that?
You have to be interested in another person for them to even want to talk to you. Think about that for a second. If I'm interested in you and who you are and what you like and your goals in life or challenges that you've had, that's like, wow, you're really interested in me as a person. Then I'm interested in you. I become interesting to you because you're showing interest in me.
I am
That's
learning
amazing.
so much.
Wow.
It's so good.
It is. Now, Macy can't wait to go on another date so she can test out all these little tricks that she's learned today.
Well, Blanca, thank you for coming on our show today. Please tell everybody how they can find you on your website and also on Instagram.
Yeah, you can find me at BlancaCobb.com. And on Instagram, you can find me at Blanca Cobb, and on Facebook, Blanca Cobb Body Language Expert. So I would love to hear from you. And so just reach out. Let me know.
Just reach out. Great.
Yep.
That's COBB, by the way. So
yeah,
you guys go listen to her. Go watch her videos. She's amazing. And we had such a fun time talking to you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
She's incredible.
And I hope everybody listens to this because there's so much to unpack here. And you guys are going to have to go back and listen and just follow along with what she's saying, because I think it'll change everything with your dating.
Yes.
I think I need to go back and listen to it. And I'm going to literally be analyzing everybody's body language from here on out. My own and everyone's.
Right.
His hands are nervous. You're going to know everything, aren't you?
Well, thank you. And listen, guys, you can follow us on Instagram as well. We are at Dating Made Simple. Check us out. We've got a lot of really cool things on there. And I think a lot of the tips that Blanca gave us are going to be on our Instagram site as well. So thanks for coming out. Macy, thank you. Bob, thank you.
Great.
So happy to have you guys here. And listen, you guys, follow us, like us, leave us a comment, DM us on Instagram. We'd love to hear from you. And look, just one more piece of advice. Just go have fun out there, would you?